Now that we've completed the first two modules where we were setting a foundation for how to judge whether something is ethical or not, or different ways of judging that at least, and also giving us an introduction to the minimum standards we expect in society, which of course is governed by a legal system, you'll remember that we spent the second 4 weeks looking to specific rights and obligations that arise in business. The first being contractual rights about making deals, and the second about the tort of negligence or carelessness, both super important areas if we're going to be good citizens, understanding what we have to do in terms of deals and also in terms of taking care of others. In this last set of 4 weeks, what we're looking at is how do we take those individual level rights and obligations and even individual views on ethics and scale them, because business is about working with others. And so we're going to start by understanding how we scale those obligations of contractual rights and obligations and negligence rights and obligations. And to do that, we need to look at agency law and vicarious liability. So let's turn to agency law. To begin, we need to think about what the agency relationship actually entails. When we say the word agent, you might think of specific relationships like a travel agent or a real estate agent, hopefully not a secret agent. But even the hint is in that secret agent title. An agent is working for a government, a secret agent, or they're working for someone else anyway. And that's the core. Agency is about working for someone else. So virtually every transaction you see in business will be based upon agency law. Why is that the case? Just say you work in retail sales. When you sell something, it's not you personally selling the item like a mobile phone to someone. It's not your mobile phone to sell. It's the businesses. And so what's real is a transaction that's quite different from what we talked about in contract law. Like in contract law, we were talking about me selling it to you. But what's happening now is I'm selling to you on behalf of someone else. Or I could be selling to you on behalf of someone else and they're buying it for someone else. Because we work in two specific businesses and it's actually the business buying it and this business selling it. And the transaction takes place through the agents. It's only in a very rare circumstance that someone in an actual business will be doing the transaction for themselves. Even if you're the owner under a company structure, technically it's the company buying and selling things. So even the owner or the shareholder with 100% shares will be involved in an agency relationship. So let's get into a little more detail about what we mean by an agent in the legal sense. Quite simply, we're dealing with a situation where someone is acting for someone else. But we have some very particular requirements for this if that agency relationship is going to result in contractual relationships between parties. Specifically, we need to understand what's going on in this diagram. Let's have a look. So as we've been saying, business deals are often negotiated not by the people involved, but by other people acting on their behalf. This is particularly the case when we're talking about a company. And what happens is a business owner who has workers working on their behalf is legally bound by the contracts and payments that their staff or that their workers make. This is because at law, we're dealing with an agency relationship. And an agency relationship involves three parties. First, the third party. Second, the agent. And third, the principal. This diagram on the right helps explain this a little bit more. Let's just think of a shop. The principal is actually the employer. That could be a company, which is a legal person, or it could be an individual. Then you've got the agent. If we've got a shop, that might be the worker or the shop assistant. And then the third part is the customer who comes into the shop. The first thing we need to understand in any agency problem is who is the principal, who is the agent, and who is the third party. So what you can actually see is the physical transaction is occurring between the agent and the third party. The agent deals with the third party and the third party deals with the agent. But the actual contract is between the principal and the third party. This is the fundamental key to understanding agency law. It's not a contract between the agent and the third party. This relationship means there is a contract, a binding agreement between the third party and the principal, even though the principal may never have actually seen or talked to or dealt with the third party. In essence, the agency relationship allows the principal to authorize the agent to act on their behalf, and then the agent is accountable back to the principal. Now, while we're using these terms, agent and principal, in everyday life, this legal relationship of agency of an agent and a principal covers many kinds of relationships that there are in business. For instance, employees are agents of their employer. A director is an agent of the corporation that they govern. An auctioneer is an agent of the seller. A solicitor can be an agent of a client, or a stockbroker can be an agent of their client, and partners in a partnership are principals and agents of each other. So I hope you can see that there's a huge variety of specific business relationships where agency law is relevant. It's not only for those situations where you have a named agent. The normal employment contract involves agency. So I'm just going to use employer-employees as an example for the rest of these videos for convenience sake. There's nothing special about that in the agency relationship, but I think it's something we can connect with a lot more. Now, because the worker, the employee, can bind the employer, the company that they work for, because they can create a contract between that employer and the customer or other people, suppliers, etc., because they can create this contract, we really want to know, what can they create contracts about? And to do that, we turn to the super important area of the scope of authority, which we're going to deal with in the next video.